Hello, if you're watching this video, I assume it's because you're interested in learning more about government spending on IT services and learning how you may be able to get your company involved in that. So I want to try to answer 7 key questions for you so that you have a clear understanding of the opportunity and how you may want to pursue that opportunity. So the questions are as follows. Number one, how much was spent by the federal government on IT services in 2015? Number two, what's the most common way the federal government buys IT services? Number three, what did the average registered IT contractor earn? Number four, what did the average preferred vendor IT contractor earn? Number five, what exactly is a preferred vendor and why does the government prefer them? Number six, what are your two primary options for becoming a preferred vendor? And finally, number seven, what are your primary considerations when hiring a consulting firm to help? So, again, I run through all of these and get these answers for you. So, to start off with, let's look at federal spending for IT. So, what you're looking at here is a map that shows you all of the cities throughout the United States that have federal IT services contracts, and each one of these icons represents a city. Some of these cities, such as in this case Pittsburgh, Kansas, had one contract for $6,383. So that's on the smaller end, obviously. But then you look at like Huntsville, Alabama, had 127 IT contracts for $114 million. So overall, you can see that no matter almost where you are in the country, there are IT contracts in your vicinity. So what was the total spending on that? Well, we're going to show you that by first explaining that one of the ways that the federal government classifies industry spending is through something called the North American Industry Classification System, otherwise known as a NAICS code. The NAICS codes we're going to be researching are 541511, Computer Custom Programming Services, 541512, Computer System Design Services, 541513, Computer Facility Management Services, and 541519, Other Computer Related Services. Actually, what you do probably falls into one of these four categories, but not all four. We can obviously help you refine and determine your exact specific target market as we move forward. But in a general sense, these codes represent the majority of IT spending. The next thing we're going to do, and by the way, I want to point out that from this point on, most of the websites that I'm going to be on are going to be government websites. So this is not commercial sites. This is not information that has been manipulated from a commercial standpoint. This is direct from the government in terms of spending and results. So this is a .gov website that shows you the NAICS codes. Next, we're going to go to usaspending.gov, and I want to show you that the filters I ran for this search were contracts, 2015, and you can see it's the same four NAICS codes that we just talked about, 511, 512, 513, 519. So the total number of transactions for those codes, the total number of contracts that were awarded was 108,104 for almost $33 billion, $32.8 billion. So that first question, how much was spent by the federal government on IT services? We're going to say $32.8 billion. Okay, next question is what's the most common way the federal government buys IT services? So, first, before we get into that, I want to show you what the number of contractors are that are eligible and available for these contracts. So, you got 108,000 contracts, you got $32.8 billion. We're going to go into another .gov website called sam.gov, and we're going to search for all of the contractors in this website that are registered that have any of the NAICS codes 541, 511, 12, 13, or 19 in their profile. So when I do that search, you're going to see that there are currently 37,598 companies registered to do government contracting. So right off the bat, I hope you understand that if you're not registered as a government contractor, you're missing out on a huge opportunity. 108,000 contracts, 32.8 billions, only being split up among 37,598 contractors currently. Now, of that, the next question that we had in the sequence of questions is what is the most common way the federal government buys IT services? And the answer to that question is a GSA schedule. So you may be familiar with the term GSA schedule. You may have even investigated it. Some people may have no idea what I'm talking about. GSA stands for the General Services Administration. Another way to think about that is the General Store for America. So it's any commercial off-the-shelf product or service the federal government intends to buy. They would prefer to run those purchases through a GSA schedule. So what is a GSA schedule? It's a long-term government-wide contract between the commercial firm and the U.S. government to provide access to millions of commercial products and services at volume discount pricing. It's a pre-negotiated agreement where a company has been vetted, a company has negotiated their best pricing. The government already knows everything they need to know about that company. And so that is what puts somebody in the position of becoming a preferred vendor, which is one of the questions we have on that notepad that we're going to get to. There are different categories for GSA. There are different industry categories. The specific industry category that we're going to focus on is going to be IT Schedule 70. GSA schedules are represented by a combination of letters and numbers, sometimes acronyms. Information Technology Schedule is Schedule 70. You can see here it says IT Schedule 70 is the largest, most widely used acquisition vehicle in the federal government. Schedule 70 is an indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, multiple award schedule providing direct access to products, services, and solutions from more than 5,000 certified industry partners. Well, that's interesting, right? Because you saw over here we had 37,598 people that do IT services, yet only about 5,000 registered through the GSA schedule. We'll get back to that. What are the specific services offered through Schedule 70? Well, if you offer anything in the realm of cloud IT services, computer networking, hardware, cybersecurity, data center and storage, IT maintenance initiatives, satellite services, software and applications, system life cycles integration, telecommunication, wireless mobility, telepresence, any of those categories, and then obviously the specific things within those categories, if that's what you offer as a business, then this is the schedule that you should consider. Let's talk about facts and figures, right? We talked about the number of contractors being 37,598. Total spending 32.8 billion. So how much of this spending goes through IT Schedule 70? Let's go ahead and look at that. This is another .gov website, and this is Schedule Sales Query is what the SSQ stands for. And we're going to click on this first report, and we're going to look at 2015, and we're going to see how much was spent on this schedule. As you can see, here's the numbers and the letters and the acronyms, and here is your GSA IT 70 schedule. You can see that second place on this list is about a 3.1 billion through 874. GSA IT 70 is the gorilla in the room. It's $10.6 billion. So essentially 33% of the dollars that were spent on IT services by the federal government, right? $32.8 billion. Of that, 10.6 billion went through this GSA Schedule 70. So right off the bat, you can see what's the most common way the federal government buys IT services? It's going to be GSA Schedule 70. What did the average registered IT contractor earn? Well, let's go ahead and do the math, right? So if we're looking at $32.8 billion and we're looking at 37,598 contractors, really what you're looking at is an average amount of $870,630. So that means anyone that was registered as a government contractor and all of the dollars spent for IT services, the average vendor earned $870,000. Now, there are a number of people registered that didn't earn anything, and there are a number of companies that earned, millions, a few of them probably billions of dollars. So there is absolutely sort of a haves and have-nots within that group, but that's the average number. So we'll talk a little bit further in the presentation about how you can make sure you're a have and not a have-not. Now, what did the average preferred vendor, meaning vendors that were on GSA IT 70, what did the average preferred vendor earn? Well, there are actually only, I believe, 4,898 companies on that schedule. So let's go ahead and check that number. We're going to click on total by contractor for specific schedule and fiscal year. And we are going to go to IT Schedule 70. And we're going to create the report. And we can see that there were a total of 4,858 vendors that $10.654 billion was split among. So, in terms of the average, that comes out to $2.193 157, 2 million, 2.1 million, or $2.2 million for the average schedule holder. Now, there's an asterisk with that, and that asterisk is only about 62% of schedule holders earned anything. So, if you were to divide the dollars by the number of contractors that earn any dollars at all, it actually comes out to $3,533,783. That's a big jump, right? That's a big difference between the 870,000 and the 2.1 or 2.2 million. So, obviously there's some risk there. If you look at the list, you can see, number of companies didn't earn anything. Plenty earned in the millions, but a lot didn't earn anything. So what's the difference between the two? Well, we're going to talk about that. What exactly is a preferred vendor and why does the government prefer them? So a preferred vendor is a company that has a GSA schedule. And there are two reasons why government buyers prefer them. Let's talk about what those two reasons are. What we're looking at here is a student guide provided by the GSA, gsa.gov website, a student guide provided by the GSA to government buyers, also known as contracting officers, that provides an overview, an education overview of the different ways in which they can buy products and services, and specifically talks about why the GSA schedule is the preferred vehicle for making those purchases. What I'd like to do is just reference some points in this guide to sort of emphasize what I'm talking about. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to page 4. And you can see here, this is just another synopsis definition of a GSA schedule. GSA schedule, also known as the Multiple Award Schedules MAS program, provides eligible ordering activities with a simplified process for obtaining supplies and services. Schedule contracts are multiple award, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contracts which are awarded to responsible companies that offer commercial supplies or services at fair and reasonable prices. Let me go ahead and interpret this for you. Eligible ordering activities just means the man or woman making the buying decision within the government. Multiple award, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, that simply means they're not exactly sure how much of the product or service they're going to need or when they're going to need it, but they're going to need a lot of it over the next, let's say, 12, 24, 36 months, and they're going to go ahead and have a pre-negotiated sort of standing offer with your company. Responsible companies means exactly what it sounds like, that you demonstrate that you've got the experience, the skill, the technical acumen, and that you are commercially competitive from a pricing standpoint. And that goes back to fair and reasonable prices. This is something that is negotiated between you and the government when you decide to acquire a GSA schedule. Okay, so moving on through this guide, we're going to go down to page 10. And I want to point out on page 10, one of the reasons why government buyers prefer the GSA schedule. In contrast to contracting by negotiation, schedule orders do not require the buyer to conduct a formal negotiated procurement. They don't require them to issue a solicitation for 30 days. They don't require the buyer to conduct a competition seeking contractors outside the schedule's program. They don't require them to synopsize the requirement on FedBizOps. You're going to learn more about FedBizOps in a bit. They don't require discussions. They don't require debriefings. They don't require competitive range determinations. So here's the point. Even if you don't know what any of that stuff is, all you have to understand is this sentence right here. They do not require these steps. That means that if they don't use the GSA schedule, they are going to require those steps, and it's going to be a more difficult, more arduous process for the buyer. So understand that one of the key elements here is that it just makes the buying process easier for the government. All you have to understand on this page, even if you don't understand what any of these things mean, which I would imagine you don't, this is just dollar amounts. These acronyms represent dollar amounts, but here's the thing I want you to see. If it's below the micro purchase threshold, which by the way is $3,000, so if a government buyer is going to buy a product or service for less than $3,000 through GSA, all they have to do is place the order with the contractor, and they just have to distribute orders among different contractors, not keep going to the same guy over and over and over. If it's higher than that, between $3,000 and $7 million, they have to survey at least 3 contractors. If they can't find 3 that can offer it, they have to do a limited source justification to say why only one man or woman can do it. They have to determine if a price reduction should be sought, meaning is there any chance for volume discounts? And they just have to make a best value determination. Here's why I chose this person. That's it. That's all they have to do. And then, even if it's over $7 million, even if it's a significantly huge purchase, they just have to develop what's called a request for quote, receive 3 quotes using eBuy, which I'm going to show you later, do a limited source justification if they can't get at least 3 quotes, seek a price reduction. They have to put the order on paper, they can't do it orally, and they have to say why they chose the contract they chose. That is a very, very simple process to follow. So let's go down to page 17. And page 17, I just want to point out that information technology services obviously are one of the primary service categories that are purchased on GSA Schedule, and information technology products are one of the primary supply categories offered on GSA Schedule. Last couple things I want to show you. This is toward the bottom of the guidance here. Advantages of the multiple award schedule program. This is all you got to know. Saves time, streamlines the process, provides flexible purchasing options, and ordering activity receives socioeconomic credit. All that means is the federal government intends to award a lot of contracts to small businesses, mid-sized businesses, companies other than the large prime contractors. And the GSA Schedule program is a great way for them to get credit for doing that. Let me show you a couple of examples of just how easy it is for a government buyer to use a GSA schedule, how it makes their job easier, their life easier. I'm going to show you 2 places where the government makes buying announcements. One is called FedBizOps. You may or may not have heard of FedBizOps, but FedBizOps is where many government acquisitions, when they're going to buy something, they post it on FedBizOps. That's where many of those postings are located. Now, when it comes to a GSA schedule, the contracting officer posts in this system called eBuy. So there's one primary difference, one primary aspect of these two systems, one difference between these two systems I want to point out. If I want to go in as a vendor, someone like you, and I want to search for contracts with IT services or for IT services, I can go into this system, and let's just say that I want to search for anything that's out there right now for IT services. I can search for any posted contract, and I can click on it, and I can read it, and I can respond to it, and I have a name down here, an email, and a phone number. Even if I've never done government work before, even if I have no idea what I'm doing, and I have no idea whether or not I qualify for this job, I could call Kira Bugs right now and ask her about this opportunity. So now picture being Kira Bugs. It's funny her last name's Bugs because that's what happens. She gets bugged all the time from people responding to solicitations, and she has to guide them and coach them and explain to them where they need to register and what they need to do and how they need to respond. And imagine how difficult that would be if all of these people that don't know what they're doing are responding on the solicitation. Now, look at this system. Notice something different? I don't have anywhere I can go in here as a vendor, as a you, and search for open quotations or proposals. I have to log in. And in order to log in, I have to be a GSA schedule holder. So right off the bat, posting here creates opportunity for a lot of people to spend my time and waste my time calling me and emailing me about questions. How do I get involved? What do I do that I have to answer? Where I don't have that problem over here because the only way you get a ticket into this database is if you've already gone through all of those steps and you've already proven yourself as a GSA contractor. That's one of the key elements or key differences that makes the world for the government buyer easier working with GSA Schedule. Second, let's say I'm a government buyer and I want to go find a vendor. And I don't even want to talk to anyone until I get an idea of what price can be offered to me, what terms can be offered to me, how many companies are out there that can do it. I have the ability to go into, as a government buyer, this site called GSA Advantage. And I can very simply go in and say technology services, and I can say multiple award schedule IT 70, and I can say information technology professional services. And watch what I'm able to do. I can come in here and see that I've got 3,287 vendors that have a GSA schedule that offer this generic category of services. But then look over here. If I want to find small businesses or I want to find woman-owned businesses or veteran-owned businesses, I have all of those subcategories here. Let's say I want to find a SQL developer. I type in SQL, I hit go. Immediately, all of my vendors are now reduced down to the companies that offer SQL in keywords in their short description. Further, if I pick one of these companies and I say, let me go look at their company in more detail, this is their GSA schedule. And look, their authorized federal supply schedule price list. I haven't had to talk to anybody. I don't have to post anything anywhere. And as this loads, you'll see as I scroll down here, I'll be able to see things like their pricing. So this is their pricing for any of these services. Now, you may not offer nearly as many services as this company does, but the point is I can see all of their pricing. I can determine exactly what my cost would be if I went through them, and I can compare that versus any of the other companies on this list. So picture being a government buyer for a second. Isn't that a much easier way to identify a contractor, know that you've got someone who's already been vetted, know you've already got their best pricing, know that you can see their services, all of that without even having to engage anyone or post anything online? That, I hope you understand now, that's the way, or that's the reason why government buyers prefer working with GSA schedule holders. Number one, because their training material teaches them to, so they are trained to use GSA schedules first. And number two, it's simply easier to buy. Those are the two reasons why the government buyers prefer GSA schedule holders. If you understand and agree that a GSA schedule is something that if you want to sell IT services to the government, that you should be considering. Your next big consideration is attempt to process, submit, and get approved your own GSA schedule, or do you hire a company to help, a company like FedBiz Access? So before we get into who you would even hire, let's talk about whether or not you process it yourself or you hire an outside company. So the first thing I want to point out is Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC. They put out great material about all aspects of government contracting. So one of the pieces they put out that I specifically want to review is the FDIC's Benefits of the General Services Administration Schedule module. So we're going to look at page 6 on this, and I want to just synopsize again for you the benefits to the government. Lower administrative costs. They can realize savings because they're getting competitive market-based pricing. They can experience flexibility and choice. They can save time. They realize transparency, and they have control over the procurement, over the acquisition. So those are all key reasons why it benefits the government. Here are the benefits to the vendor. Small businesses specifically also receive many benefits from the GSA schedule program. Opportunities are increased as GSA is a major purchaser of products and services sold by small businesses. This is an important statistic to understand. 80% of GSA schedule holders are small businesses. They're also committed to increasing opportunities for small disadvantaged business, woman-owned small business, hub zone, veteran-owned. If you don't know much about that, just understand that if your business has a certain socioeconomic designation, you get an even stronger advantage through the GSA program. If it doesn't, GSA is still a great program. They're just accentuating the fact that if you have any of these designations, it's further enhancement for you. Now, here's another piece. GSA schedule contracts last as long as 5 years with up to 3 5-year options for renewal. That means it's potentially a 20-year contract, ongoing contract between you and the government. There's more than 11 million commercial items available for purchase. 19,000 contract holders. You guys saw there's less than 5,000 that have a GSA Schedule 70. So as you saw, competition goes down because there's fewer of your competitors that have a GSA schedule. GSA schedule and placement in their databases also leads to increased visibility and credibility for your business. Not just credibility in the government arena, credibility in the commercial arena. Having a GSA schedule means that you are a verified and approved vendor for the United States government. That's a huge differentiator in the commercial market. And finally, it saves you time and money because it's a simplified buying process with a shorter reward cycle. That simply means it doesn't take months to respond to the proposal and months to have the award announced, and then weeks to months for contract to begin. This actually is a much, much shorter turnaround time, so you can get paid and move on much faster. The next thing that I want to show you is page 9. These are some key points that, again, the FDIC is bringing up. The application process can be costly. Some contractors hire consultants to help prepare and negotiate their GSA offer. So here's a .gov website telling you that contractors consider hiring outside consultants. Here, why do they do that? Because applying is time consuming and comes with a considerable amount of paperwork. Make sure you're prepared, educate yourself about rules, understand the consequences of those rules, and research your firm's price offering and competitiveness. These are all things that we would assist you with, or a consulting firm should assist you with, but without the help of a consultant, you're going to have to do this on your own. The next piece, which is more important, is being an approved GSA schedule contractor does not guarantee you're going to be awarded work. You need to continue marketing your business after you are approved. That is the single most important point about your consideration about whether or not you want to acquire a GSA schedule. You're going to hear me talk later that you should not buy a product, you should buy a strategy. And I am very, very adamant about this because when you see the 38% of companies that have a GSA schedule that haven't got any dollars, they are set up for success if they take the steps to market themselves appropriately. And if you don't market yourself appropriately, you are going to risk wasting this time and wasting this money on a tool that you can't use. So let's go down to that was page 9. Let's go down to page 10. Just want to point out the following are some of the organizations that currently purchase from the GSA schedule, all federal and executive agencies. So Department of Justice, Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Homeland Security, Department of the Interior, Department of State, etc., etc. DoD defense agencies, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. Government contractors authorized to spend federal dollars, such as fixed price contractors that purchase security equipment. Institutions like Howard University and National Technical Institute for the Deaf. And state and local agencies that are eligible to participate in cooperative purchasing, disaster recovery purchasing, law enforcement purchases. Man, having a federal GSA schedule really helps you look good in the eyes of your state contracting officers and the individuals that manage the state budget. So it pays itself not just at the federal level, but state and local as well. Okay, the last thing I want to show you, the last two things I want to show you in here are factors that increase your success as a GSA schedule contractor. The ones that I want to point out are contacts and relationships within the federal contracting community. It is very important that you know how to establish relationships with these contacts, who they are, and how to engage them. And that's something we'll talk about later. And this is the other thing I want to show you. I think this is absurd. The idea that you would have to invest $80,000 to $130,000 find and manage your initial government contract. I think what that speaks to is what a significant barrier to entry there is for people that aren't given the proper guidance and the proper education. That is absolutely unacceptable in our eyes at FedBiz Access. There is no reason why it should cost somebody that much in time, money, and energy to get their first contract awarded. So we're going to show you how we will help you significantly reduce that potential cost. But I think just in a general sense, that's absurd. Here's the other thing that I wanted to point out. Contracting officers reject unacceptable offers. That means if you go through all of the steps that I'm about to show you to process your own GSA schedule, you go through all of the effort and the time and the energy. At the end of the day, if you don't submit a GSA schedule that meets all of the conditions and criteria the government's looking for, it's going to be rejected. And you can only have it rejected so many times before they don't consider your submission anymore. Let's walk through that process. Okay, so if you're intending on considering doing it yourself, this is a general idea of what you're getting into. So here's the necessary steps in order to obtain and maintain a GSA Schedule 70 contract. You have to download the solicitation package. So let's look at what that means. It's going to go to FedBizOps, and all of these documents over here, the solicitation, the SF 1449, the regulations, the past performance requirement, small business subcontracting plan, etc. You have to download and read all of those items. I believe it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 400, 500 pages. You can see it for yourself if you go download it. There's a lot to read and to digest. So once you've done that, you have to prepare your offer. So you have to your SAM, your DUNS, your open ratings, and there's another document here about IT Schedule 70 offer prep, which we're going to look at here in a second. You have to submit your offer. When you submit your offer, GSA is going to review your offer, and then this is something I want to go through with you. Once your offer has been submitted to GSA, a contracting officer will be assigned to review it. The contracting officer will act as your guide through the process. It's very important to understand. Yes, they will act as a guide in terms of what you need to submit and how you need to progress, but the government is negotiating with you to determine pricing. So understand that the contracting officer that you're dealing with, they're on the other side of the negotiating table and they're trying to get the best price they can possibly get from you. So yeah, they're there to guide you, but they're not necessarily there to help you get the best result. Once the initial review has been completed, the contracting officer will negotiate the contractual terms and conditions, including prices of the potential contract. If all requirements are met, the prices are fair and reasonable, and the offer is in the best interest of the government, an IT Schedule 70 contract will be awarded. That is the area where a consultant that knows what they're doing can provide the most value. Yes, you pay for a consultant to submit the application and collect the paperwork, but a good consulting firm helps you with the negotiation to ensure that you don't give up the house in terms of pricing just to get your GSA schedule awarded. Then obviously you need to maintain your contract, deal with any approved agreements, etc. So now let's look into the nuts and bolts of the actual offer preparation for IT Schedule 70. So we're just going to run through these slides, and I think you'll see pretty quickly that this is a pretty involved process. All offers and mods must be submitted electronically through the eOffer eMod system. Here are your SIN numbers, your special item numbers, so you have to learn which special item numbers you qualify for. Here's an additional list of special item numbers for services. The solicitation, as I showed you, is on FedBizOps. That's this site right here. You need to know about GSA eLibrary and eOffer. There's the solicitation number. You have to learn about a digital certificate and exactly what you need to do to get a digital certificate. Learn about registrations in SAM, Dun & Bradstreet, and the D&B Open Ratings Past Performance Evaluation. Here's a website that can help you with a bunch of resources. Here we go, preparing the e-offer. Here's everything that you have to understand, not just in the actual doing of it, but understanding what these things mean. The evaluation factors, standard form 1449, the vendor response document, the commercial price list, the production point, etc., etc. So I'm just going to scroll through this document and just ask yourself, do you want to take on the responsibility of learning how to interpret and how to properly respond based on all of the information they're asking for? Because it is a significant undertaking. And then once we get to the end of the document, what I love is the last page. And the last page says, do you have any questions? Most people at this point have significant questions, but the one overriding one is, okay, who can I hire to do this for me, and how do I know I'm hiring the right company? So let's talk about that. Your two primary options for becoming a preferred vendor is do it yourself or hire a professional. So as we go through and answer, what are the primary considerations? I want to show you where we stand in each of these categories. I would say the number one is reputation. I want to point out to you our reputation as it pertains to government contracting. We were established in 2000 as Fed Planet. We became GSA Access Group and then FedBiz Access as a maturation of the original concept, the original company, to become a full service firm. And as you can see here, we have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. And I can tell you that we are not accredited, which means that we have earned this rating based on our performance, not based on any relationship that we would have with the Better Business Bureau. My feeling would be, if you're going to engage a company and you're going to make such a significant commitment, not only of your money, but of your time and your energy to pursue something like a GSA schedule, make sure you're working with a reputable firm. All right, second would be results. Can they demonstrate, can they prove to you that they've gotten results for their clients? So what I'd like to show you is, on this page in our website, I'm going to scroll down and show you some examples of companies, IT companies, that we've assisted in becoming successful in the government contracting arena. So Perio Associates, and this is their cage code. So this is an identifying code that you can use to look up a company in the federal database. So I'm going to go to sam.gov, and we're going to look them up. Okay, here is their record. We're going to view the details. And I want to point out to you that they started business in 2007, And you can see here that they first registered for government contracting in July of 2007. And they're in Virginia, so they're in the Beltway. And the thing that's interesting is they did not win their first government contract until May of 2012. So they went 5 years with no contracts. And if you look here at their award history, I'll sort it by date, you'll see. So you can see here their GSA schedule was awarded in June. So they had been, just to recap, they had been registered for government contracting since July of 2007. No award history. They get their GSA schedule awarded in June 2012. September of 2012, they earned $633,000. September 2013, $1.4 million. And as you can see, the total amount is over $2.1 million. So that is an IT company that, through our guidance and coaching, along with our processing of their GSA schedule, experienced success where they hadn't for the previous 5 years. I've got a couple of other examples. Ziva Incorporated, Avanti Technologies, Newport Computer Systems or Solutions. Feel free. You can click on those links. You can go look in sam.gov, pull up their history. You can see this one registered in 2010, Avanti 2006, Newport 2006, and then you can see what they've won after their, not just getting their GSA schedule, but the guidance and the coaching and the support that we provide. So what is the difference there? What is the difference between buying a product like a GSA schedule and getting no results versus buying a strategy and leveraging your GSA schedule to win significant dollars? Well, from our perspective, it's simple. It's having a plan for success. And this is the plan that we intend to offer to help you not only acquire a GSA schedule, but help you succeed with that GSA schedule. During the time when your GSA schedule is being processed, because it can take anywhere from 3, 4, 5, 6 months, longer sometimes, depending on the backlog. What we're going to do is during that time when it's being processed, we're going to educate you and empower you so you can hit the ground running when your GSA schedule is approved. So what does that mean? That means that we are going to set up your SAM and DSBS registration. We're going to optimize it to make sure that your registrations for federal contracting are complete, visible, and that they give you a competitive advantage. We're going to create a capability statement for you, which is a government resume. We will make sure it's formatted and designed to ensure that you make a great first impression. We're going to make sure you learn who specifically buys what you sell and how they buy, whether or not it's through GSA. Because if they buy through ways other than GSA schedule, you can start selling to them while you're waiting for your GSA schedule to be processed. We're also going to teach you how to have effective email, phone, and face-to-face communications with key points of contact in the government. One of the most difficult things for most people is understanding how to effectively engage to a positive outcome, how to effectively communicate and engage these individuals, and we're going to teach you how to do that. We're going to teach you how to use public systems to your advantage, systems like FedBizOps, but also private systems like our proprietary database that shows contracts that don't go out for public display. So between the private system that we have and the public systems that are out there, we're going to make sure you have all your bases covered in terms of being alerted of opportunities when they come up. So that once your GSA schedule is awarded, you have all of the tools that you need to make a great first impression. Everything is registered completely, correctly, visibly, and competitively. You know exactly who your target audience is. You know how they buy. You know how to engage them. And now that you have this great tool of a GSA schedule, you can utilize that tool and leverage it and start generating significant sales with your target audience. So in order to be able to do all of that, we have a package we put together called the Premium Package. And essentially, the Premium Package includes all of the things that we just talked about. And what we do is, since we put them all together in a package, we discount it. So retail, it would be $12,850. We've discounted it down to $11,000. And with this package, you will position your company to absolutely succeed in government contracting. And you'll put yourself in position to be one of the companies that is winning a significant amount of government contracts. Just as a reminder, with this package, you're going to be one of these 4,858 or so contractors that is successfully engaging in this $10.6 billion market. You are going to be one of the contractors that averages over $3.5 million in government contracts. So I hope this answers your questions. I hope this gives you some direction and some insight as to how you can go from where you are today to becoming a successful preferred vendor of the federal government for your IT services. Thank you.